Joining me for this very special interview is Dr. Dinshaw Pardiwala. I mean, you go and ask any sports person in India, some of them are very well known, and you can ask, and they will say, if there's one man who has saved us from getting our careers finished, is Dr. Pardiwala. And I have asked many of them, so I can vouch. I can absolutely vouch. It's a privilege to call him a friend. I requested him for this time for two reasons. One, because we are celebrating Rishabh Pant. The Border Gavaskar Trophy, Rishabh Pant happens to be one of India's, if not India's, go-to man in Australia. And secondly, we are also going to see Rishabh Pant fetch a lot of money in the IPL auction. Now, these are the two reasons. And Dr. Pardiwala made it possible. How did he, when he got Rishabh Pant, what was his condition? How did he see Rishabh recover? What did he have to go through? I wanted to hear all of it from Dr. Pardiwala. And he said, let's do it on a WhatsApp call. I said, no, we must do it on a Zoom recording because the emotions need to come out. So over to you, Dr. Pardiwala. Tell us. Tell us, how did this miracle happen?
Well, as you know, Rishabh had a particularly bad accident, and that happened on the 30th of December in 2022. That's about 2 years back. And that terrible accident caused a lot of injuries to his knee, his ankle, and some other body parts too. And fortunately, he survived that accident. I think a lot of us know that if you have an accident like that on Indian roads, it's sometimes difficult to survive these really bad car accidents. Fortunately, he survived the accident, and that's how he then got taken to a local hospital there, which did a fabulous job in making sure that his life support and everything else was okay. And the BCCI felt that his treatment would be appropriate if it was done here in Bombay. So he was flown down to us at the Kokilaben Ambani Hospital here in Bombay. So he came in on the 4th of Jan of 23. And then once he came in, we saw that his injury in the right knee was terrible. It was a bad knee dislocation with multiple things torn. And that's how we started off that journey of treatment. Of course, its initial treatment involved not just the knee, but a lot of other soft tissue injuries, because when you come out of a car accident, you're going to have much more than just one joint injured. So we had to take care of lots of other things. But the main injury was that right knee. And he underwent a successful surgery on the 6th of Jan of 23 was the surgery. He was in the hospital for almost a month thereafter for the initial recovery. And then the National Cricket Academy took over their job of the whole rehabilitation process, which took almost about a year. But in that year, he went from strength to strength, recovered all the parameters, which we thought were initially impossible and then difficult. But with his resolve and his complete commitment to his rehab, he managed it in, I would say, record time. So it was absolutely fabulous to see him back. And then he's been going from strength to strength, in the IPL initially, and then participating in the tests and being able to go through the rigors of a test as a wicketkeeper. I think that's really tough, but he's really proven that he can do it. And so I'm really glad that he's back in Australia, where he certainly wanted to be. And that was one of his goals, even in his treatment process, being there for a test and then being back in Australia.
Did he speak to you? I mean, I'm sure he did, Dr. Pardiwala, about what he wanted, and were there self-doubts at any point in time? Did you have to cheer him up and anything like that? Give us a sneak peek, because you clearly have seen him at his vulnerable worst, and then you have seen the miracle happen. He's a story of inspiration for everybody in this country. What can happen? Give us a sense how it was. Give us a sense of the process.
I think the process, when you come out of a near-death experience, the first thing is, of course, shock. When you're dealing with an athlete who's one day a sporting superstar, is an absolute superstar who's performing these miracles on the field, and you have a major life-threatening accident like this, and you're in bed, the shock of just the fact that you go from this superhuman status to almost a subhuman status, where you're just in bed, you can't walk, you can't go to the washroom, you can't brush your teeth on your own. I think that becomes a difficult thing to deal with. So in any major injury like this, it's not just the physical trauma, it's always the mental trauma too. And so, but I think motivating an athlete is critical, and that we managed to do. And at the same time, I think his hunger, his drive to make sure that he just didn't want to be a normal person coming out of the injury. He wanted to get back to cricket, get back to elite cricket, get back to wicket keeping. So I think that was I think his drive, his hunger to get back. I think that was the major motivating thing that pushed him.
Did you
When you
ever
land
doubt yourself? Did you ever think he can make it back, or can he make it back in this record time? Is it possible?
We treat a lot of knee dislocations, and this was really something without precedent, to be quite honest. We treat knee dislocations, and there are two types of knee dislocations. So you've got the sports knee dislocations, which are usually the low velocity ones. So someone who's playing football lands up with a knee dislocation, or someone playing kabaddi lands up with a knee dislocation. These are usually the low velocity ones. And so when you land up with a normal sports knee dislocation, then we know that if we fix everything and they do their rehab well, typically at about a year or 18 months, they will get back to sports if everything goes off really well. These are really terrible injuries, but still we've had a lot of athletes. Vinesh Phogat had a knee dislocation in Rio on the mat, and then she got back in 7 months. And so we've had lots of these athletes who've gotten back after low velocity knee dislocations. But when you have a high velocity knee dislocation like Rishabh had, so someone who's had a car accident, that kind of a knee dislocation is a different beast altogether. It's high velocity, everything shatters, and typically we take care of high velocity knee dislocations. But these are not elite athletes. Their requirements are that they would get back to walking, they'd get back to normal life, and they're happy with that. Here we had a really unusual situation of an elite athlete having a high velocity knee dislocation, which is a car accident. And to be quite honest, we knew that we could do the best that we could. We could fix everything, but whether he'd get back to elite cricket again, that was, without precedent. So we didn't know, and we didn't really want to promise him the moon. So we said, okay, we'll fix everything. We'll take it a step at a time, and then we'll see how things go. And if things go well, then I think that we can get you there. And I think I really realized that he could get there only at about the 6-month mark. So that confidence that he would get back to elite cricket came at about the 6-month mark, when his rehab parameters, his stability, his range, his strength, everything started falling into place. I think that's when we realized that yes, it's going to be a successful return to elite cricket again.
So mental strength. I mean, do you then reckon that his mental strength is more than normal people? Did that kind of work for him? I mean, was that something that stood out for him? Because when you said the 6-month mark, was he pushing him? Because when I think of Tendulkar telling me that, oh, you know what, my doctor said this is what you do for tennis elbow, and I said no, I will cross this and do more. So I will do more. Did you see something like that for Rishabh Pant as well?
Yeah, so actually in the beginning we had to hold him back. After any surgery, you want things to heal in there. And you don't want the athlete to be doing too much, which would come in the way of the healing process. So typically in that first phase, which is so frustratingly slow, you need to make sure that things go slow, so you don't allow too much movement. You don't allow him to walk normally. You're going to use crutches. And so, it's like a racehorse that's, just wanting to go and get there. But we need to hold back the athlete for some amount of time, make sure that our surgical processes have healed before we give them that freedom and we push them towards rehab. So the motivation was always there. Excuse me. That motivation was always there. That hunger was always there. I think his drive to get back to elite level cricket again, I think that probably pushed him. I suspect what also really pushed him was the fabulous rehab that he got at the NCA. I think the NCA, tremendous amount of effort from everyone involved with his rehab at the NCA on almost a daily basis, motivating him, not just physically, but also for all of the mental aspects, taking care of his weight management, taking care of a lot of other things that go into rehab. And then I think, so if you ask me, why did he get better? Why did I think it was 18 months? And why did he get better in 12 months or maybe 14 months before he played his first match? I think it's probably because of his resolve, but also because of the real expert rehab that he received at the NCA.
May I say this, that this was one of the most challenging sports cases that Dr. Dinshaw Pardiwala had? Am I right in saying that?
I would say that. I would say that because of many things, not just the surgical situation, but also because of the circumstances, and also because, as a wicketkeeper, his needs, as far as the knee are concerned, are much more than, say, just a batsman. He needs to have full knee flexion. He needs to squat in there. So he's doing multiple squats in a test match, day in, day out. He needs to be, agile. He needs to dive. So many functions that come into the knee that maybe a normal, elite batsman may not necessarily need. A batsman may get away without full flexion of the knee, but he, as a batsman, wicketkeeper, any small little thing, any niggle there, and that's going to come in his performance. And so challenging from the surgery, challenging from the rehab, and extremely satisfying sort of result to see him back there and back to his full performance.
You in touch with him? I mean, just by way of it, and how things are, celebrating him more, because all of us are. I mean, all of India does.
Yeah. So it's always nice to keep in touch and find out how things are. Sometimes, athletes tend not to tell their, minor sort of niggles to anyone else but their doctor. So you just want to make sure that preemptively you know everything that's going on. And when he had that blow on the knee a few weeks back, there was a bit of a concern there. But fortunately, everything was okay. So that was great. And so I know that he's fighting fit.
One final question. It's a 5-test series, Dr. Pardiwala. 5-test series down under has different rigor. In India also, the New Zealand test match is 3 days. The matches got over bad pitches, etc. Forget about it. But effectively, he played 3 days, right? In Bangalore, 1 day got washed out. In Australia, he's got to play 5 days. It's a 5-test series. You think he's ready for a 5-test series? His body is ready to take the rigor of a 5-test series. I'm asking you as his doctor now.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think when you talk of fitness, you're talking of different aspects. You're talking of one, the structure there. Is the knee ready? The knee is ready. The knee is normal for sure. He's gone through all of the fitness rigors at the NCA. He's passed all of his parameters there with flying colors. The final sort of performance index is how is he performing on field match situations, and he's gone through that too. So he's ticked all the boxes there. So I think he's absolutely ready for it.
Lovely. Fantastic. I mean, you said 15 minutes. We've done it in 13. So good timing. Sport is all about timing. Because I know, honestly, you still have work to do. I mean, your day starts at 7, finishes at 11. You've taken out time for me because I wanted to celebrate the Pant miracle. At some point in time, Dr. Pardiwala, you must write this. The Pant miracle by Dr. Dinshaw Pardiwala. We'll make a fantastic video. My hand is up.
I'm sure Rishabh will have something more to write about. Yeah.
You should write your stories of Vinesh, of Rishabh, and some of these absolute miracles that you've done. Will make superb reading. As an analyst of sport, I would buy the first copy. But thank you very much for doing it. I know things haven't always been easy, and that's how Indian sport is. But I've always celebrated and appreciated what you do and what you've done for Indian sport. So stay the way you are and keep doing magic work. The Rishabh Pant Miracle by Dr. Dinshaw Pardiwala. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching.